he is saying that not only am I not going to follow federal law, I'm going to openly defy it, and I'm going to assist anyone else who openly defies federal law. Mayor Brandon Johnson of Chicago had a big announcement yesterday. Let's listen to that.
And today, we are signing an executive order aimed at reining in this out-of-control administration. The order establishes ICE-free zones. That means that city property and unwilling private businesses will no longer serve as staging grounds for these raids.
Here's a little more from the Daily Wire. Chicago Democratic Mayor Brandon Johnson will create ICE-free zones across the sanctuary city as the Trump administration continues its immigration sweeps while facing an uptick in violence. The Windy City's mayor said during a news conference on Monday that his latest action is focused on reining in this out-of-control administration. And so basically what we just saw. So this is a treasonous conspiracy against the United States, which he is announcing publicly and proudly, and not for the first time. So my question is then, and not to sound like a broken record, but my question is, why is he still a free man? Why hasn't Brandon Johnson been cuffed and shackled? Why isn't he being dragged in front of cameras in chains? Okay, why aren't there leg irons around this guy right now as we speak? Why not? Let me put it, because if you think that, and I think that there are still, of course, everyone on the left, they're very scandalized anytime I talk like that or anyone talks like that, because even though they'll try to put Donald Trump in prison for crimes they make up, it's like, well, the moment you try to hold one of them accountable, then it's a big scandal. But I think even conservatives, many conservatives think that this is, that it's a little overdone. That well, okay. And this is a response I get a lot from even people on the right. They'll say, oh, we're not, you really think, do you honestly think that Trump should send in federal agents, break down his door, put him in handcuffs, the mayor of Chicago, and arrest him? You really think? Yes, I do. Yes, that is actually what he should do in real life. And I think here, so imagine this hypothetical, just to, I think, clarify things a little bit. So imagine that a Republican mayor, or even a Democrat mayor, actually, I think that this would apply for either party. Imagine that any mayor were to announce that he was setting up IRS free zones in his city. And in these IRS free zones, individuals and businesses would be exempt from paying taxes. Okay? You imagine that some city makes the mistake of making me the mayor somehow. Imagine that horrifying scenario. And let's say I get up and I say, okay, these are our IRS free zones. And if you're in these zones, you don't have to pay federal taxes, any of them. And also, my city is a sanctuary city for people guilty of tax evasion. If you commit tax evasion, come run to our city and we won't let them get you. And if any IRS agents show up to try to collect, well, we're going to bar them from, they won't be allowed. We're not going to allow them in. IRS free zone, sanctuary city. So imagine that I say that as the mayor of this. Here's my question. How long would it take before I'm not asking if this would happen, but just how long would it take before the feds are knocking down my door and carrying me away in handcuffs? Would it be a day? Like, do you think I'd make it a day? From the moment, let's say I give that press conference at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday. Do I make it to dinner time before I'm in a federal prison? Well, we all know the answer. The answer is no. I mean, it would be, I don't think I'd make it off the stage. Like, I don't even know if I'd make it to prison alive. That is how much they would crack down. I think your life is in danger at that point. I mean, they're coming out guns drawn, like an army of them. and you make one false move and it's good night. I mean, that is the amount of force they would use in the scenario I just described. And whatever the exact time frame and however much force they use, what is clear at any rate is that I'd be in prison for that. For sure. No question about it. No question about it. I'm getting arrested. I'm not seeing the light of day until my trial, and I'm getting convicted, and I'm going to prison for the rest of my life. Now, also, I'd be the most popular mayor in the country for about 45 minutes before I'm arrested, but I would certainly be arrested, right? I mean, and that's the point. So then my question is, what is the difference between that hypothetical scenario and Brandon Johnson? What exactly is the difference? Well, there's one difference that I can think of, which is that the income tax is actually immoral. So that hypothetical mayor could at least make a moral argument in favor of his actions. Like, you can make a moral argument. You can make the moral argument that the income tax is an abomination. It's not a good legal argument. Like, legally, you're screwed. There's no legal argument for it whatsoever. But so that's maybe the one difference. Whereas on the other hand, enforcing immigration law is not immoral. Quite the contrary. Our leaders are not only are morally entitled to enforce immigration law, but they are morally responsible to do so. But putting aside that, the situations are identical. Okay, let's put aside the fact that the income tax is actually an abomination. The situations are identical because in both cases, a mayor is acting in a lawless manner to aid and abet criminal activity. And he is going to war against the federal government and federal law. He is saying that not only am I not going to follow federal law, I'm going to openly defy it, and I'm going to assist anyone else who openly defies federal law. I am saying that in my city, you are allowed to commit federal crimes, and I will protect you in doing so. Okay, in the tax situation, the ICE situation, that's what's being said by the mayor. It's treason. It is treason. Again, this is not overstating it. This is not being hyperbolic. Okay, words like treason get thrown around a lot. People get emotional. They call everything treason. This is actually treason. So I go back to my initial question. Why is Brandon Johnson still a free man? Why are you letting him do this? Why have you not arrested him the same way you would if he did that exact same thing with taxes? And I think we're at a point where we really need an answer to that question. Because also if you let him, one of the big reasons why me as the fictional mayor, why they would break down my door and haul me away to prison if I declared a tax-free zone is that they would know that if they don't respond that way, that, now you have set a precedent, and next thing you know, nobody's paying federal taxes, and that's a disaster if you're the federal government. You can't allow that to happen. Same thing applies here. You let him get away with this. You let him just get up there and say, yeah, you know what? I'm not even, you aren't even allowed, you're not allowed to be here. I'm going to keep you out. In my city, immigration law doesn't exist. You let him get away with that, as these so-called sanctuary city mayors have been getting away with it for years. But the more, there's escalation, and the more you allow it, the more you have guaranteed that you're just going to get more of it. And then you end up with then you have anarchy. And then you have the total delegitimization of the government. The whole system collapses at that point. Like, Brandon Johnson is throwing down the gauntlet, and he's saying that he's putting the challenge down. Right? He's calling your bluff, basically. That's what's happening here. Because the Trump administration have supported a lot of what they've done. They're sending ICE out. They're trying to mobilize the National Guard in situations where I think it's warranted. But, Brandon Johnson's calling their bluff. And he's saying, yeah, you know what? You'll send the National Guard out. You'll send ICE. You'll round up some illegals, but you're not ready. You're not really going to go to the mat on this, are you? That's what he's saying to the Trump administration. And he's calling the bluff. You're going to let him do it or not? That's the question. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.